Tonight, members of both parties are reacting to No Kings rallies that took place nationwide this weekend, including here in Minnesota. Fox News' Madeline Rivera shares lawmakers' thoughts on them.
Organizers say more than 7 million people participated in 2,700 No Kings demonstrations nationwide, so they view the protests as a success. The premise of their movement revolves around the argument that the president is abusing his power, and they point to immigration detentions and the deployment of National Guard troops. But House Speaker Mike Johnson says their message is flawed, and here's why.
If President Trump was a king, the government would be open right now. If President Trump was a king, they would not have been able to engage in that free speech exercise out on the mall, by the way, which was open because President Trump hasn't closed it.
Johnson says the protests were merely a cover for Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. He's accusing Schumer of caving to the far-left flank in the government funding fight. Johnson told Fox Business he hopes Democrats will be willing to accept the GOP short-term funding bill now that the rallies are over. Until then, he's refusing to call the House back into session. But Democrats are not budging on health care concessions. They're rejecting Senate Majority Leader John Thune's offer for a vote on Obamacare subsidies after the government reopens.
Offering a vote in the Senate without a commitment that it would pass, without a commitment that the House would even take it up is an empty offer. We want to negotiate a resolution so people's health care costs don't spike, and Republicans are saying the same thing. They know they need to fix this, so let's fix it now.
The No Kings demonstrations were largely peaceful. Still, there were several arrests in Portland after hundreds of protesters moved to rally outside of the ICE facility in the city. Per local reports, federal agents used tear gas to push the crowd back. 3 people are now facing several charges, including assault and harassment. In Washington, Madeline Rivera, Fox News.
And here in Minnesota, the shutdown continues, obviously. St. Louis County residents now have a way to find out how this may impact them and how to find some help. The county is launching a web page for those who use federal benefits, including things like WIC and food stamps. President Trump has slashed U.S. assistance to Colombia. He blamed the move on the country's leader, Gustavo Petro, who he calls, quote, illegal drug dealer. Petro rejected that accusation and defended his work to fight narcotics in Colombia, the world's largest exporter of cocaine. Hours after President Trump's announcement, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announced yet another U.S. strike on a vessel allegedly carrying substantial amounts of narcotics. There have been 7 U.S. strikes in the region on alleged narcotics boats in the last few months. It's been called a bold violation of the ceasefire in the Middle East. Israel claims Hamas killed 2 of its soldiers, and they have begun retaliatory strikes as a result. But Hamas claims Israel fired first. Fox News' Trey Yinks is tracking the impact on their fragile peace deal.
Israel says it will continue to allow aid into Gaza following violations of a fragile ceasefire with Hamas. And the Israeli military says 2 IDF soldiers have been killed by the militant group during combat in Gaza Sunday. In response, Israel launched dozens of airstrikes into the territory in what is the heaviest bombardment since the U.S. brokered ceasefire began a week ago. Hamas also accused Israel of violating the peace agreement and says the military has not stopped its attacks in the region.
This is the reality. This is the truce. It is a truce colored in red. It is all blood. What truce?
This comes as Israeli demonstrators are demanding the return of dead hostages who remain in Gaza. Over a dozen are still there.
We don't want to go back to fighting, God forbid, but this whole ordeal must end and all the hostages must be returned.
Hamas says the destruction left behind in Gaza following 2 years of war has slowed down efforts to recover hostages' bodies, some of whom are buried under the rubble. Since the ceasefire, all the remaining living hostages have been returned to Israel. And in central Israel, 2 of them were met with a cheering crowd after their discharge from the hospital.
We still can't believe it, that it's reality, and we waited for this moment for 2 years.
Despite the tension, Israel and Hamas say they are committed to maintaining the ceasefire. In Tel Aviv, Trey Yinks, Fox 9.